Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Ernie C, the Gap Genius, and this is going to be episode 109. Really excited for this episode. We are calling this Do the Job, Doing the Job, or Do the Job, Cueto.
Yeah, I'd say doing the job.
And I got my guy, Arnold Cueto. Cueto, what's up, man? It's an honor to have you on.
I appreciate the honor of being on the show, bro.
Definitely, man. We're going to be calling this segment here. This is the S.T.S Podcast, but we're going to call this Doing the Job. This is going to be our wrestling segment. We don't know how often we're going to do this. We said once a month, but man, with everything going on, I think we definitely need to talk a little bit of pro wrestling. I know we really clicked on our wrestling, bro, and really wanted to just talk positive about wrestling. I know there's so many podcasts right now that are critiquing it. Um, we could critique with
Just
it, but it's not one of those things. Hey, we watching AEW or we watching WWE. We're both sides and we love it.
correct. Exactly, man. It's all love, man. This is the stuff we grew up on, between, I don't know about you. I was a big fan of the Monday Night Wars. I loved watching going back and forth and that kind of thing. I had no hate for either side. Uh, and now that the programming and the talent so deep in the world of wrestling now, it's just great to watch.
Definitely, man. That was actually my first question I wanted to ask you was, what was the first match that made you love wrestling? You go first and I'll go second. I already know which one. I was a kid when I seen this.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna have to say the same thing. So I I'm an '80s baby, so I grew up in the golden era of wrestling. Man, I was in the WWF days and the Hulkmania, kind of when that was running wild. So I actually do remember the build up between Andre and Hogan in WrestleMania 3, and that was for sure, like, because I was, as a kid, man, Hulk Hogan was the god to me, man. He was the real life superhero. So for
Definitely.
sure, that was what kind of brought me in.
And just that whole angle when they brought in the Hebner brothers, and no one knew these guys were twins. And what I'm sure that was mind blowing at the time. We didn't have social media and all this technology we have now. Just as a
Man, the
kid,
stuff I couldn't wrap my head around as a kid, like thinking that what are the odds of a company hiring twins? never and never acknowledging it. So it's like, man, I couldn't wrap my head around, like, wow, they must have really got that guy to get like plastic surgery and look just like the other guy.
I remember the first match that made me love wrestling was it was right before the Attitude Era, believe it or not. It was Triple H, Mankind, the Blue Cage, SummerSlam. My dad
Oh,
got that pay-per-view, dude, and that was one of the craziest matches ever. In my opinion. That's what made me love wrestling. This is before Triple H became DX. He was still Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and that was when I think Mankind was just fresh off that Boiler Room Brawl with the Undertaker, and it was really cool. That was like when I was like, damn, this is wrestling. And believe it or not, bro, I remember when this is another one. I guess I have two. Andy Kaufman and Jerry King Lawler. I remember being a kid saying, damn, he really broke his neck. And we were at my grandma's house. I was so young, dude. I was probably like 6, 7 years old. And I'll never forget. And man, just Andy Kaufman, that Jerry King Lawler. I think it was just a special that was running, and they were just showing this. And we didn't have YouTube back then, so I didn't really get to watch that match till I was a little bit older. But man, that was what put me on wrestling. I love this for sure.
And then the other kind of match that kind of pulled me in was uh early '90s Sting versus Vader.
Man, he was a
And I tell people all the time, I was like, man, you guys don't understand. When I was growing up, I thought Vader was the scariest human being on the face of the planet.
yes, yes. Dude, his run there and before he went to WWF, that was a great run. What
Yeah.
had a great match with Hogan, a stiff match with Hogan too. You don't understand now that now we know the ins and outs. Hogan wasn't big on getting work like that, and man, it was definitely doing the job for Hogan at points. That's a beautiful time. Thank God for
Yeah.
the see, that's what I think we're so spoiled too, man, with the WWE network and just we could go back and watch these
Yeah.
and
Content just at the tips of your fingers. Yeah.
it's beautiful, man. I catch myself watching the Attitude stuff all the time, just seeing everybody had a storyline, and that's
Yeah.
what's cool about it. And that's what AEW is really on point with that. No matter if it's successful or not, they're giving everybody a storyline, and it's cool how sometimes they cross hairs. And I really enjoy that part of the game right now.
I do too. I think we spoke about this earlier in the week. I love it right now, but I'm worried because down the line, what's going to happen with it? We'll talk about that in a bit, but I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I'm enjoying it for what it is right now.
I think we should probably just talk about the biggest storyline right now. It's Brock. It's
Brock
Brock
back, yeah.
and
Uh,
Lashley's gonna slide in there too with Heyman. What are
yeah.
your thoughts on this right now?
So I've been wanting this match, Brock versus Bob, for since Bob got back into the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I've always watched the similarities, the kind of the mirrored images of the two. If you notice, their entrances are very similar. They used to both kind of come in with under the same guise of like just black tights, basic kind of thing when they first started out, and get down to the ring, hop up on the apron, and it's just little things like that you kind of pick up on. I'm like, okay, I see what they're trying to do here, and the background's great. I'm glad that they finally kind of gave Bob that rub to be a legitimate threat.
Exactly.
It's hard to sell guys as a legitimate threat to a UFC, champ. And I think Lashley was kind of always been one of those guys that kind of like been sleeping under noses and finally kind of came into his own.
And I love how their interaction between their match in day one.
Yeah,
it was meaningful, and man, that's
great booking, man. Great booking on that part. It was just
WWE gets it right, dude. They get it right, and it's another level that no one can duplicate. That was amazing. That was amazing.
For sure.
I think just sometimes how the universe works with wrestling too. When there is someone sick, especially during these COVID times, they're really, like we always say, they're making chicken crap out of chicken into chicken salad, and that's what they did. And it's great to see Brock and Roman as our champs, but to see Lashley and Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, I think it'd be really, really good. I think they can make Lashley a bigger star than he is now.
For sure. I personally was just kind of hoping we get this match at Mania.
Definitely.
That was kind of my hoping, but I'm not going to hate on it because I'm finally getting it. So it's it's a combination of things. I think both guys are business centered. I think they're going to understand what the outcome of this match can mean for both of them. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that they're still both both guys are older than I am. They're both in their mid 40s, but they can still go, they can still work, they can still put on quality match, and we're not getting these guys like 5 years past their prime or anything like that. We're still seeing something where Monster Brock and Monster Bob going at each other.
I remember there was a poll back on WWE, who would you want Brock Lesnar's next opponent to be, and it was almost unanimous. It was Bobby Lashley, and I'm glad they kind of got him going a little more into that serious direction. I know in the beginning with the Rusev and the Lana wedding stuff and the debacle that was, that's kind of what I was like, they can't do this to Bob. He wasn't in the UFC, but he's in Bellator. He's doing an Impact Wrestling. He was a champ for so long, a dominant champ at that. Yeah. And now that he's back in the fold and the interaction, that match was great too. We can start with day one with that match. That 5-way, usually those 5-ways, it's kind of hard to keep up, but the story they told from the beginning was awesome.
It was funny. Obviously, it was New Year's Day, so everybody kind of had their own thing going on that day. I remember I always watch the monthly events, or whatever they may be, on WWE, and I remember getting home. I'd fallen behind on what I was looking for, and I knew what to expect with the 4-way match, and then Brock versus Roman, and then as I'm kind of getting everything set up, and I catch on that like, oh, Roman's out. What are they gonna? My first thought initially was, what are they going to do with Brock, and if anything, and when I saw that they was going to put in that match, I was like, oh man, this is a different level now. Like now I'm going to see Brock and Bob in the same match, and you still got Big E, and you still got Seth.
Definitely.
That match was. I mean, I can't remember watching a match in a long time where I thought I almost felt that match was too short, man.
Yeah, it was short.
It felt like it just flew by.
It was so short and sweet, dude.
Yeah.
And I think I love how Rollins and Owens, I'm trying to remember it. Rollins and Owens is teaming up on Lesnar. That's what you would do. That's exactly what you should do every time. If you have a 4-on-1, right. If you have a 5-way, there should be 4 guys on Brock.
Well, and then Bob was the same way. And I don't think, with the exception of Big E going 1-on-1 with Brock and Bob, I don't think either one of those guys were sold. Were made to look weak. Both those guys were made to look strong. Yeah. And the build up to that, what it was. I think a lot of people would criticize Vince, especially now in his older years, but I think when he gets it right, man, he gets it right.
Yes, dude. It was I think it was we do feel sorry for Big E's reign. He did a great job. We see him on. I think it was the Canelo fight. He did I think he did the intro for the Canelo fight. Or what? The
Joshua, Tyson and Wilder 3, I think.
Was it Joshua and Fury?
Yeah.
The biggest match in boxing, and he did the intro for it. That was takes the title and takes Big E to the next level. And I was excited to see that, and I know it was a great feel-good story. And again, I did see some complaints online. Here comes Brock again, just taking the title. But I think the way they set this up, though, it just, Big E did take the pin, though, or did he?
He did.
Yes.
So I saw something kind of, and it made a lot of sense to me. I think with Big E, you get kind of, it's almost more, as a fan, you're almost more engrossed or engaged in him trying to win the championship than being the champion.
Chasing. You want to see the chase.
Him chasing the championship, it just looks a lot better to me than him being the actual champion. I know that sounds weird to say, but when he gets that moment, it's it's something to be appreciated. It's kind of like Kofi was, kind of like Daniel Bryan was. Mm-hmm. They want to see a guy like that come from underneath and overcome, and I really think that's Big E's story. Now, of course, what I think hurt Big E is he had a lot of losses. They booked him really weak early on in the championship run, man.
Definitely.
And I thought that he took a couple of losses here to Owens and Seth to set up the angles, and then obviously to Bob to get him back into the into the hunt. But he was coming. I think he was doing jobs more than he was going over.
Definitely. Is he one of those guys you consider he doesn't need the title anymore? He's just a star now, right? Or is he not there yet?
So, and this is kind of one of my points that I think I want to kind of look at from a definitive angle, and right now the WWE, who are the legitimate main eventers? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Obviously, we have Brock, and obviously I have Roman. Those two guys right there are the faces of the brands, that kind of thing. I argue now that Bob is kind of working his way into that category now. And the guy that I haven't heard a lot of talk about lately, but I think he's legitimately going to be one of those guys. If not now, then when we see him again, is going to be Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
I think those four guys are the core, could be the core main eventers. And then you have a guy, say, like a Randy Orton, who could always be plugged into that spot.
Definitely.
Go ahead. Sorry. So then I think those are your 4 or 5 core guys. And I think then you have your other guys that can kind of be in the main event picture or transition out of it and be main event guy or top of the mid card. I think those are your Seths, your Owens, your Miz's, AJ Styles can be thrown in there.
I wasn't making the argument for him. I think him and Randy are really suffering from that tag team thing, that tag team blunder. No disrespect to Almost, no disrespect to I know they're tag champions right now with I call it
Riddle.
Matt Riddle, right? Randy and AJ, I still think are main eventers, especially AJ. I'm a big AJ mark, and
I agree. I loved AJ back from his Impact or TNA days, and I think they could do a lot more with him. I thought they introduced him well. They put him in those main event matches with Cena and those guys early on, and nothing but quality matches. Elevated his guys that he worked with, and I wish they would use him more, man. He's another guy I'd love to see in that spot.
Definitely. I think, and like I said, I love and respect the Almost angle, the story, but how could you can't really make this guy better than he is right now. And I don't know, I'm not an Almost guy at all. I never had faith there. I seen him work here when he had the house show, and I didn't see anything. Damn, I want to see him and AJ in a one-on-one. Nothing intriguing. No disrespect to the man. So I would like to see AJ something a little bit better for him.
Definitely. He's a spectacle, something to see in person, just to kind of wrap your head around someone that, that enormous. But, it's hard to find guys, especially the way the business has changed now and what we want to see from our guys. Mm-hmm. It's hard to see a picture of a guy, over 7 feet legitimately that's going to move and kind of give you the entertainment value of of a match that you're going to want to see.
Definitely.
It goes back to the Andre days, man. Like everybody loves Andre, everybody wants to see Andre, but like, you're never going to watch Andre do put up, go. What's the comment Flair always say? He's not going to do 60-minute Broadways and
Definitely not. Definitely not. It was
5 days a week or whatever.
bring him in and do squashes every time.
Yeah,
every time.
What I said. I think eventually he'll get his monster push. He may hold the title for a couple months or something like that, and kind of be the guy to build up a new face off of. But who's going to be the Giants there? That's always again me being a Hulk Andre mark back in the day. That there's got to be somebody that can be that Hulk to almost as Andre eventually.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Xavier Woods? Does he have a chance of getting in the picture? I know he's the king right now. He won the King of the Ring recently.
Man, I love Xavier. I love his attitude to the business. I love his work. I loved him since he was it Consequences Creed back in TNA back in those days.
Yes.
He's definitely a personality you can't ignore. But I think, given his, how can I put it? Given his size, I don't think he's going to get the rub in WWE in the long run.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when he was always kind of been staged with guys that have overshadowed him. I mean, no disrespect to Xavier, but I mean, guys were pulling for Kofi, guys were pulling for E, and then, once I don't know if Xavier's got it in to be past that, upper mid card status,
I think he's Andrew Garfield, dude. He's number 3.
Yeah,
Garfield, dude, and it sucks, but that's his role. I would love to see. I just think he's done a couple jobs too, and it's kind of to take him as a threat to the AJs and the Randy Ortons, or we forgot even Edge. We could put Edge in there anytime. You can put him too, even Edge.
Edge is another guy that I think is going to transition in and out of that main event picture. I think he's got one more title run in him. It'll be hopefully it's sooner rather than later, because I don't want to see Edge, kind of broken and beaten down before we get him into that run.
Exactly.
The other, but there's a few guys that, like in AJ that we don't feel that may not initially be utilized. Shinsuke Nakamura is another guy.
Oh my God, yes, I'm a Nakamura guy for sure.
And man, I was just thinking about this the other day. He's been IC champ for how long now? And I don't think he's defended that title yet.
No one cares about it, dude. I know I forgot the guy. I can't even. I don't like him. I try not to even get to know him. But his
hype man
guitar. Don't even. It's like, damn, I need to watch this. Knock him, and the way he was with New Japan for so long, and he put me on New Japan Wrestling when he started doing the things he was doing over there. That's when I became a fan. And I know AJ was there. That's when Kenny Omega came with Okada. But that's what made me watch New Japan Wrestling. And
well, a lot of people don't know. I mean, Nakamura was like a legitimate contender back there to post WWE Brock and Kurt Angle, those guys, man.
Yes, yeah. He had his matches with Lesnar back in the day before. I always call him like the Prince of Wrestling, right? Before Velveteen Dream, he had that charisma about you wanting to watch him, and something so different. The way it was red jumpsuit. I love the presentation. I just don't think they know what to do with a foreign star who can't really, get a grasp on the English language. I think it's such a important thing. If you don't have somebody on the mic speaking for you, it's so hard to do it solo.
Yeah, it's a shame too, because when Asuka first came into the WWE, I thought, okay, they can just follow that same formula with Shinsuke, and it'll kind of work organically. But man, it just they really kind of they dip their toes in that water and then they pull out real quick, with Shinsuke. It's a shame.
It is a shame how they book sometimes. I feel like it's such 50-50 booking. I know it's a term that everybody hates saying, but it is 50-50 booking. If you're gonna give him the Rocket, Oscar's one of them. I think even her Carrillo, he's another one that suffers from not knowing the language. That kid, you want to talk about bringing back the cruiserweight title? Why does he have it on defended on both shows? I would love to see him have a run with something. This probably needs
the cruiserweight program in WWE would be awesome right now. You got you got him, you got Dom, you got Cedric Alexander still put out there.
Mm-hmm.
give those guys chasing the 24/7 title a legitimate kind of something to do. You know,
I thought the 24/7 titles would be something legit. It's just a prop at this point, but that could have been something. I know we can't do the hardcore runs like we used to, but that could have been something special, I thought.
right? Yeah, man. I think they, I think Vince gets in those modes where he's kind of entertaining himself for a while there, and we forget kind of like, oh, we could use these guys to actually build a match around.
Talking about building guys, I think the best, we're talking about this every time he speaks, is Paul Heyman. He's elevating every segment he's in. And I think we're watching something really special that could be, you could insert him at almost any period in wrestling, and Paul Heyman is that guy. He's probably been in every period of wrestling the last 30 years. And we now see why, we see why he's continuing to just raise the bar.
Man, it is amazing what that guy has been able to translate into anyone that's kind of touched him and worked with him. Talk about just always understanding the assignment and what's fresh to people and what they want to see. I mean, I imagine the scariest thing in the world for the WWE is if Paul ever gets interested in going to AEW.
Yes, imagine for everybody there. Imagine what he could get with another Heyman. What was his crew in the 90s with WCW? He had Rick Rude, Austin,
Ian. Yeah, that was the Dangerous Alliance. I remember that. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude! Imagine
highly dangerous.
Man, we could do a whole podcast on what that could be in AEW, like this fancy booking.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's amazing what, especially right now, him playing the middleman with Brock and Roman, just seeing that he still cares about Roman. It's great storytelling. This is stuff that movies are made of, dude. This is a great soap opera.
I was watching that SmackDown, the most recent SmackDown, and I was thinking to myself, like, this is, you can tell his hands are all over this, because this is just, no other person can write this, get away with it, and make me like get into it more than that.
Definitely, he makes me believe.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think he just making Roman and just that heel turn of Roman the last couple months. It's been because Paul Heyman's gonna tell you what he's gonna do when Roman does it in the ring.
Right.
It's amazing, dude. And just how they brought Lesnar back, and you don't know if he's Lesnar's advocate or is he a special counsel to the tribal chief. It's special, dude. I'm really interested in what they got going on.
Yeah, I think the typical internet fan kind of tries to kind of look down the road and see what it is that's going to happen, and I think Paul's doing a good job of kind of towing the line a little bit to make sure, like, okay, am I going to go that way? Am I not going to go that way? So,
people say that long-term storytelling is not a thing anymore. This is definitely potentially could go to April.
Yeah, oh yeah, I could definitely see that, and and I can see other people getting involved now.
Mm-hmm. I love the segment yesterday. They have, they're teasing a title versus title match. Is that something you would like to see? Maybe at Mania unification for the championship?
I know a lot of people kind of like having the idea of having one champion. I'm kind of not into that category. I think if you're going to have two what we call separate brands and within the company, you have to have a champion of both events, because you're going to have to, you can't have a guy working back and forth and that kind of thing, because it's just going to, whoever your top guy is, it's just going to wear him down eventually, man.
Definitely.
As much as we all love, the Attitude Era and stuff like that, how many of those guys really lasted beyond, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, dude. People forget that Austin reign wasn't a 20-year thing. That was like a 5-year from 97 to 01. He didn't last long. The Rock wasn't along for a long time. He didn't do it. He's not a Ric Flair. Flair is such a rare gem still.
Definitely, man. And he's still, he's still contributing to the business any way he can, man. It's amazing.
Definitely, longevity is definitely a factor there. I don't see. You're right though. The work rate right now for both of them, I think, is for both champions on Raw and SmackDown, I'm sure is ideal.
Yeah.
Who do you see Roman going with right now? How do you see that? We got Brock and Lashley at the Royal Rumble. What do you see possibly putting against Roman there?
So it's kind of a weird toss-up right now, because looking at the Royal Rumble now, it's kind of anyone's game, man. Because like obviously I have my kind of own perspective of the Royal Rumble based off of I do my little, and you're involved in it this year, my little Royal Rumble party here.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking at it in terms of like, man, who is, because in years past you had guys like you would have guys like a Bob and Braun Strowman and Keith Lee and guys like any one of those guys you can look at and be and I believe even Drew McIntyre is another guy we could have looked at and say like, oh, any one of these guys could have been the Royal Rumble winner and go on to main event WrestleMania. All those guys are gone. Drew's out with a neck injury. I don't know what the timing is on his return time. I understand it's I don't know how significant it is, but if they're taking him out of the Rumble, that's definitely like, who's the guy. There's not really a guy this year, especially with Bobby being in that main event with, because if now you take out Brock, you take out Bobby, you take out Roman. Now who's the guy? I expect to see Almost do a run in the Rumble, but I don't necessarily think he's going to win.
I love Austin Theory, but is that something they're trying to set up to make this man a credible contender for the Rumble?
I just don't think it's his time yet. I think he's going to be one of those cats, similar to like how they built up Randy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they kind of learned they kind of ran their way with Randy and how they built him up, and I think they're going to do his a little bit slower just to make sure he's level-headed enough to kind of stay in that business, because young immature Randy did a lot of dumb things along his way to the rise. So I think Austin, all the credit to the world. From what I hear about this kid, he's very respectful backstage. He does what he's supposed to do. I haven't heard any issues about him backstage, but I think with him, you're gonna have to kind of build him up a little bit and kind of make him pay his dues a little bit longer.
He's one of those guys too. I remember I never heard of Evolve until I seen the buzz with this Austin Theory kid, and that was like one of the first shows I seen on WWE Network when they were still having NXT on there. I like Theory a lot, and it is cool to see him getting the Vince McMahon segments and the rub from Vince, especially since it's such a rare thing for maybe a couple years now. Vince wasn't on TV regularly.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's with the exception of a rare showing here and there, yeah, it's good to see someone that's actually piqued Vince's interest enough to kind of get back in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm. And it's cool to see Vince kind of just play with the stereotypes of his personality. He goes firing people, and I love the whole freaking. This is the most that's a big thing in wrestling. The most powerful weapon. I think Jim Ross coined this. The most powerful weapon in wrestling is the eraser.
Yeah,
it's the most powerful weapon in this whole game, and it was cool to see that, just to pass that on. Right now, too, we were discussing, and I should have said this earlier. Brock Lesnar, though, for Raw, this is ratings. We've seen this at the reports are out. He raises the bar again. When he's on TV, he's the champion. People come watch Brock.
And part of that too, I believe, and when Brock's not around, it's unfortunate that we have to see the kind of the same guys go against each other.
Exactly.
Because, and as much as people hate seeing, hate Brock's a part-timer and all this stuff or whatever, when he comes back, man, we get matches we haven't seen in a while, or we haven't seen before, and that's, I think as a wrestling fan, that's a big thing, is you want to see what you always want something new. You always want something refreshing. I think that's part of the reason why Brock and Bob is getting so much love right now, is because this is something we haven't seen yet.
It's a dream match.
Yeah.
It's a dream. And then just this whole gimmick that Brock has now, it's with the overalls, and he's kind of being more of himself. Yeah. And just, he's the face right now. He's a baby face. People are loving Brock, and it's so different. And I love it.
Yeah, no kidding. It's definitely, face Brock with personality, kind of dig into his country roots and that kind of thing. And, it's always been said, and a number of guys will say this, but like, the most over you'll ever be in the company is when you're yourself times 100.
Yeah, exactly. That's all the great ones did, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Samoa Joe, we should talk about that real fast. NXT, this new NXT is nothing like it's been in the last couple of years. I know we had Ciampa in there for a while. Braun Breaker just won his first NXT title. Great kid. I haven't seen a lot of him though. To be honest with you, haven't seen a lot, but he looks like he buys into what he's doing.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for that Steiner. I mean, legacy, man. You go back, in the early '90s, and with Rick and Scott, some of the stuff. I mean, they were huge in the ring together, but they wrestled, just awesome matches. Especially, I mean, you'll ask anybody walking around in 1993, 1994, who was the best wrestler on the face of the planet. It was Scott Steiner, man. He was just he could do things in the ring that no one else can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad that the kid kind of bought into that legacy of who he is and that kind of thing. Even though a lot of people were upset that they didn't let him keep the Steiner name and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
But the kid is awesome in the to watch in the ring. First of all, he looks like just a badass.
Yes.
He's got the look. The funniest thing in the world to me is when he got on the mic and we're like, oh man, he sounds just like Scott.
Yes, dude, he has that little Steiner accent. It's there.
You knew as soon as he debuted and started kind of working with like the upper class and the upper echelon of guys in NXT at the time, like, oh man, he's debuting up there already, man. They must see a lot in this kid, and
yes,
because I mean, the internet buzz when he was kind of going into developmental and that kind of thing, it was him and the Parker Bordeaux guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Bordeaux didn't really make his appearance until much later in the time, and he seems to be being brought up really slowly, and it tells me if they start at the same time, they must really think the world of Braun right now.
Definitely. He's only been in the game for a year. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I've seen this interview with Cody Graves. He was saying that Goldberg's one of his mentors right now. Austin's one of his mentors. These guys are just because they have a lot of history with his pops, and they're just trying to set him up to win. And you can see that with the matches I've seen, his work style. It's real. You can buy it. I buy it 1,000%. He respects the game.
What a world to be like a guy that to be able to follow in your father's footsteps and be mentored by like the biggest names. You know what I mean?
What access, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Like
it's such a sorority with wrestling, just like with Hollywood, I'm sure. Yeah. Everybody, it has a connection to everybody, and it's pretty cool to see that with Braun. You've seen Rick come out. I think it was after he won his title. It was cool to have him share that moment with his boy, because Rick Steiner is one of those underrated legends, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. People go. I mean, the years before before Scott got in the business, and the things that Rick was doing were innovative, man. Like the suplexes out, the original suplex that he was in with the dog face gremlin, man.
Yeah, dude. I love Scott's one of those guys. I think after that WCW buyout, he left. He didn't come back.
Right.
He's in. It's cool to see him back in the game with his boy and guiding his son. I think it's amazing. Good.
That's really a shame too, because Scott was really hitting his stride as a character at the end of the WCW run.
Oh man, dude. What was his saying, dude?
Big Papa Pump.
Big Bad Booty Daddy.
Yeah. That whole era, man. It was just like when he. It was like, man, when he was off TV for a while, I was like, man, we are wasting some Scott Steiner time.
Yeah, man. Dude, Scott. I remember when he came back to Triple H, but I didn't know he had that foot injury. That kind of just derailed his whole WWE career. I didn't even know he was do that.
It's a shame that he kind of got put into that spot too, man.
Yeah, dude. That was that time when Triple H had to go over everybody. He was established himself with that reign.
That reign of terror. Yeah.
So it looks like Samoa Joe just got released again. William Regal, another one that was probably the most shocking, because you can't get a great GM anymore. Regal's one of those last of the Mohicans with the GM title, GM role, and that was the shocking. I think that was a little more shocking than Samoa Joe.
Yeah, the thing that sucks about Regal is, man, you have a guy that knows wrestling from the most carny outside indie way of wrestling, so he'll bring in these guys from nowhere and build them up and teach them how to kind of and respect where they came from, and continue to build them up. Mm-hmm. But he's also been to the show. He's been to the the Manias. He's been to the Starcades, things like that. So he knows, what a show's supposed to look like. It's a shame to lose a guy like that, man. And one of the things I always kind of wish people really kind of knew about William Regal is the guy on the mic was just as cold as anybody, as a villain at that time, man.
Yes, dude.
Like he can make you just but I mean, he was malevolent on the mic sometimes.
Yes. I think remember when he had his brass knuckle gimmick? That was one of my favorite Regals too, dude. Even WCW Regal was one of my favorites, man. He's always been a legend. I hang on every word he's saying when he's on the mic. I thought the Samoa Joe and the Samoa Joe storyline they had earlier this year was great. That's why it's so disappointing. He could do so much more what he's done for the last 6-7 years as a GM.
Yeah.
I could see AEW definitely installing a GM role for him too. That would be much needed, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, by far. I think it'll give Tony Khan what do we call an office guy to kind of put out in the camera and work legitimately. I know he kind of teased us a little bit with oh gosh, what's his name? Bischoff coming back here and there, and even Callis, I think at some point or another tries to fill a role like that, similar to a Paul Heyman / corporate guy. But I think Regal would be a really good guy to plug in that position.
Yeah, I love Bischoff, but Regal, since it hasn't been overutilized in AEW, I don't think it's been utilized at all. I know Khan has kind of made an appearance here or there, especially with the Impact promos.
Right.
But have an on-air authority figure hasn't been done yet. Who better than William Regal?
Oh man, you imagine a William Regal Dan Lambert showdown?
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, Lambert is such a damn. That's our AEW talk. I enjoy everything you say. I love it, dude. We need managers like that, man. I love it. I love it.
Samoa Joe, man, that one's. Oh man, you talk about missed opportunities there, man.
Yo, 100%. That's the story of both promos, right?
Yeah.
Missed opportunities, dude. And I know Mickie James is not missing her opportunity. I was shocked yesterday. And I'm not. Man. We haven't talked about a lot of women's wrestling on here, and I'm not the biggest advocate for women's wrestling. I love watching, but do I say, hey, they're the top star? I'm a Charlotte Flair guy, and that's what the book stops for me.
As much as people hate kind of Charlotte online and that kind of thing, I was like, you understand how the things that she does in the ring compared to like her peers, how far ahead she is of people that enter in the ring with. I don't think she gets the appreciation that she deserves in that regard. But I mean, does she play backstage politics? But who didn't? That's on top.
When you're on top of the game, who doesn't do that?
Yeah.
I'm sure Flair did it for years. Hogan's
notorious for it. As much as people loved him, Austin was just as bad.
Yeah, dude. He had so much pull. And I think this is kind of sidetracked, but it was cool. That's why I don't think they're gonna ever make a star that's bigger than the brand ever again.
It makes sense, yeah.
Because you don't ever want to be in that position where if I don't show up, these people are not gonna come. I always felt like they're never going to. Cena's probably one of the last Mohicans too. He's bigger than the brand now.
Definitely, and it gets to the point where like I said, like when we're talking about Austin Theory, I think they're kind of going to keep the kid under their thumb a little bit until they kind of get a register of who he is and what he's going to be in the long run. Is he going to be a guy that's going to always show love to the WWE and loyalty, or is he going to be someone that if they strap the rocket on too soon, that they're not going to be able to trust it where he lands?
Definitely. And I think it's one of those things too. With Flair, she's a top 10 worker. No matter what company, no matter what gender. I always thought Charlotte is just echelon. She's a different echelon than everybody else, different levels, different tiers. And there's nothing wrong with that, but Charlotte's where the buck stops for me for sure.
For sure. I agree.
So the Royal Rumble, I know it's interesting to see Mickie James, who is currently the Impact Women's Champion.
Man,
that Forbidden Door open? Was this a one-off? What are you thinking?
Man, you talk about the Forbidden Door, man. That's you never see it open this way.
Never.
It's amazing to me, like the fact that I want to know who negotiated that and what the stipulation was. Obviously, you hear the rumors now that there's not enough women's talent to fulfill a 30-girl Royal Rumble or whatever. But like, if that's the case and they're willing to go that far, man, you know, when are we going to start seeing why stop at Mickey James? Why not
exactly. I know exactly where you're going with this. Yes. The whole Impact. I think it should be open to every Impact star, dude.
Yeah, especially that women's roster, man. There's, a lot of people talk about AEW's kind of building their women's brand, but Impact's been solid, especially on the women's side.
I forget their names, but they're the tag team champions with Impact. They're the women's tag team champions.
They used to be the Iconics. Now I believe they're the they were Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, but now I believe they're Jessica McKay and Cassie Lee.
Yes, that's what's so hard for me to keep up. Those two are special. I've always thought they were great. I was wondering, like, damn, they released them. Why would you do that?
Yeah,
you could build off what they have.
Mm-hmm. I agree wholeheartedly. They're two. I think they have the look that that the WWE upper management's always kind of look for. They're marketable. The only issue I imagine would have been maybe the accents, but if anything, Becky Lynch has proven that accents don't necessarily get in your way.
I think and then they could do the comedy, they could do this, they could do the seriousness.
Yeah,
I've always loved about them too.
Jessica McKay, Billie Kay, she was. I don't think people appreciated enough what she was willing to do at the end of her WWE run. It's
cool, and then actually to get Mickey James, I think really does open doors for even the men. There's some guys in Impact I would love to see into the Rumble. Just I don't care how long they're in. I think that would be a good look. Maybe that does happen though. Maybe it doesn't end here.
I would like to see. Obviously, there's a lot of guys in in Impact that were former WWE guys, but to see like a Moose.
That was number one on my list. Moose.
Moose has the size, the character, and I think the personality to be like a big guy Vince would like to see.
Definitely.
I think the other guy who I wouldn't mind seeing back in the WWE, especially now that he seems to have a new kind of outtake or outlook on the business, is Big Cass, W. Morrissey.
Yes.
Just to see some of the things that he would do now within the brand and stuff like that. But
yes, man, I agree. I would like to see him get that second chance.
Yeah.
When him and Enzo were at their peak, bro, I always thought it was Michaels and Diesel all over again.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
AEW. Let's go into AEW now. I think we definitely have to start with the best tier wrestling feud right now. It's been Daniel Bryan, Adam Page. That first match, loved it. I haven't seen an Iron Man match in a while that I sat down and watched. I watched every second of it. Great storytelling right now. Daniel Bryan's elevating Page to levels that I thought he was at his ceiling. He's took him beyond the glass ceiling for sure.
If he's not the best worker right now, he's definitely the best dance partner.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
I was kind of thinking about this the other day. Daniel Bryan is now what Bret Hart was at his prime.
Yes. That is the conversation right now. Is it Daniel Bryan or is it Bret Hart?
And what Bret always prided himself on, I thought, was his ability to make his opponent look good, his ability to make the match believable, and keeping his opponents injury free.
Definitely,
Daniel's doing all of those things,
yes.
And still giving us quality matches, still giving us a great. I think Daniel has a tendency to be a little bit more flashier than Bret was in terms of like his moveset. Bret was more of a grounded kind of guy, but he's more willing to get off the ground and kind of do some high flying stuff or whatever. But again, I think either one of those guys being compared to the other should not be offended by that. I think they're both solid performers and just elevate the level of whoever they're in the ring with. Not to say that Adam Page is just kind of lucky to be working with him or anything like that, but I think he's he's been doing solid work with everybody he's been working with.
Mm-hmm. But when you're in there with someone like Brian, he's just going to take your talent to the next level and make you like $1 million. Like you said, he's a great dance partner. The way he carried that match, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? That's just what he's a veteran. The vets always run it. Like especially when he's a heel, the heel's always calling the match.
Yeah.
So the match he's called the last. We'll just go with the most recent one on the TBS debut. What a freaking old school! It was stiff. It was believable. There wasn't any spots of like, oh man, that was so. He was waiting for him to fall. Everything looked like a pro wrestling match.
What amazed me about that match is how engaging it was, even though we got 60 minutes of them less than a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, at least they gave us 60 minutes of an awesome match, and then they came back and gave us another match, and it was just as incredible.
Just and different.
Yes.
So much.
And it wasn't the same match, exactly.
Oh man. And I think you definitely have something special there. I think it's gonna be real interesting what they do with Paige now, since this rivalry's over, right? Is maybe Punk or MJF in line next?
So that's kind of the conversation I wanted to have is so we're looking at AEW now, and it's just that, obviously Paige is on top, but who's going to be on top with them? Similar conversation we were having about WWE earlier, but like who are those guys, man? My concern with AEW is you're going to have too many of those guys that are going to be itching for that top spot.
Mm-hmm.
You got let's look at who can be title contenders in AEW right now. Definitely. Obviously, you have Adam Page, right?
Yes.
Then you have Daniel Bryan, CM Punk. Obviously, those two guys are there.
Put Moxley in there.
We can't forget Moxley, man. Moxley's coming back out of rehab. I'm sure he's going to be working his way back in the title picture soon. Mm-hmm. Kenny Omega.
Never could forget about Kenny, dude.
Never. And then, depends on how much he wants to do it himself, but Jericho.
Yes.
So, and then let's not forget, the MJFs, the homegrown guys.
Mm-hmm.
MJF will probably get there. He's probably closer there than most guys, but yeah.
I think Darby could be in there eventually.
Oh, definitely. I think Darby's about one or two more feuds in the upper middle card away from kind of working that program.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sammy's going to be there quicker than people think.
Yes. Malachi Black. Do you see him becoming a main event?
So him and Andrade.
Yes.
Are two guys that I think people sleep on, man. Like I don't think those guys came to be mid-carders, man. They came to be players.
Yes.
And of course, Adam Cole, baby.
Adam Cole, yes. Adam Cole is one that, oh man, I think they're saving that undisputed. I know it won't be the undisputed era, but with him, Riley, and I'm sorry, what the heck's the last?
Not Gargano. Fish,
Buddy Fish, Bobby Fish.
Yeah.
And then against the Elite, I think that's something that they're going to really put to the table. I think they're going to focus on that. But yeah, Adam Cole is definitely a player too, man. I've always thought he was kind of like a Shawn Michaels type too, just his work rate.
So, and then answer me this, man. What if we get Keith Lee? What if we get Bray Wyatt?
Oh, God. We have hooks coming up. And I think one day Hobbs could be in there too. Dude, Warlow could be in that category. Let's see how the booking goes, man. This was so good about how we're open canvas with them.
I loved what I saw between Adam Cole and Jake Atlas the other night.
Yes. So I hope he gets better, man. I think he had an ACL. I think he blew out his knee.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yes, dude. That's what I think. If you've seen the match, it was one of those split endings. He messed up his knee, dude. He blew it out. So sad, man. I like Jake in NXT too. So yeah, definitely, man.
Well, then some of the guys who could potentially, some of the best workers in AEW are guys that aren't going to be able to work that, be that main event guy anymore. Yeah. I feel really bad right now for oh God, his name escapes me now. Murder Hawk Monster.
Oh yeah, my guy, Lance Archer.
Lance Archer, man, I think he came in with all the potential to roll to be, go for a monster run, and he was well on his way, and then, he had that setback with versus Miro, I think, and then they were kind of restructuring what they were going to do with him, and then he had the injury, man. And I'm just like, he's going to be, his time away came at the worst possible time.
I think do you remember Jake Roberts'
Yeah.
first promo against Cody, calling him
Yeah.
Caesar, Hell Caesar?
Yeah.
I don't want a piece. I want the whole thing. That was the setup. That's why I thought Jake was going to really be like a Paul Heyman type,
Right.
whoever the guy, that mystery guy was. And I just thought he came in. Maybe he came in a little bit too early because they were still kind of on that. I felt like that indie wrestler type of storyline stuff, and
yeah,
they kind of threw Lance in there when I was in the middle of that, and I just didn't think he was set up to succeed at all.
And I think we talked about this the other day, but Brian Cage is another guy just kind of fell off, man.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I thought
athlete, dude. Man's a freaking athlete.
I've never been not a fan of that guy. Yeah. And I like what he did in Impact. I thought once he got into AEW, like, okay, here's another guy's going to be a player, and then he got put in with Team Taz, like, all right, they're going to go heel route with him, but still, and then he kind of had that moment with that angle with Ricky Starks and put out Team Taz, and now we don't know where he's at.
I think, you know what, and we should have mentioned his name earlier too, but I remember seeing Brian Cage at Lucha Underground. They had a couple, tapings that we went to, and man, the guy I became a fan of, who should be winning the main event for WWE, Ricochet.
Man.
See, and that's what happens. We shouldn't be overthinking him. That's what that booking has done to his character, is getting him overlooked.
The things that guy does in the ring that only he can do and make it look just amazing. Yeah.
Exactly. Star.
Exactly.
They have some, I think, real fast, pillars of WWE are going to be Ricochet, Austin Theory, Big E. You could carry this company for a while on their backs, I think. And same thing with AEW, with the MJFs and Britt Bakers of the world, Darby Allin's, Hooks. The foundation of wrestling right now is looking really, really interesting.
I have a buddy that I was talking to it's funny because you have the four, they mentioned the four pillars, and I'm like, man, they're already kind of bringing in the next generation of pillars. I mean, I think you take your four pillars, you still have those guys, but then you still have, like you said, the Hooks, the Pilman Juniors. I think the other guys that people forget about that could go on monster singles runs. Wardlow. Yes. I think they're getting ready to do something with him. It seems like within the Pinnacle faction.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sounds like Jim Ross has always been big on Wardlow and within the company.
Definitely.
And then they're a tag team, but obviously one of them is going to be wrestling by himself for a while. But the Lucha Brothers.
I always thought Pentagon could be one of those main event guys too. He was special with Lucha Underground. I've always been a big fan of Pentagon. Dude, he's amazing.
And his brother's just the same way, man. I don't think his brother's as charismatic as Penta, but I think what he does in the ring is like he's like a Ricochet in that regard, man. He does things that you don't see other people do anymore. There's never a dull moment.
And I hope he bounces back too, man. I was showing my girlfriend the other day, and that was a dislocation of epic proportions on live TV, and they kept showing it. That's what's crazy.
I was telling my wife, I was like, if you see any highlights from that match, just scroll right past them, man, because you don't want to see how that played out. God, man,
but hey, and dislocation pretty hurts, I'm sure, but at least he didn't break the damn thing and had some ligament damage or something.
Correct. Yeah.
Hopefully he's back soon. Real fast, I just wrote down Brian Pillman and Hook. I think the way they present them could really take him to the next level. Brian Pilman Jr., I would love to see as a guy who gets his ass kicked every time, but he doesn't give up. He's that underdog who just has that heart, and he's going to fight through adversity, fight through it off, somehow come up with the wins, right?
Kind of like a yes movement, Daniel Bryan back in that day.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think they dropped the ball a little bit after what show was it on with his dad? What's the TV?
Oh, Dark Side
of the Ring, but Vice TV. After the Vice episodes, dude, he would look like a great baby face. You could get someone you could get behind. He's tied in with the business. Give him that underdog role.
And, and it's funny because when that happened, you noticed on that AEW fans are true wrestling fans. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because they went through, they'll go through and they'll watch the dark side of the ring. They're not going to pick up on guys who just kind of shut up out of nowhere and that kind of thing. So
Definitely. That's what I love about the AEW crowd. They call out what's not working. They're gonna really get behind what's working. That's what's so crazy with Hook. I think they really
yeah,
want to make this man. He could end this any way, but any submission out of nowhere. That's kind of what made Stone Cold so great. That's what makes
right,
Daniel Bryan great right now. He's not doing his signature move to end matches. He's just doing submissions. I think
right.
that's the way Jake the Snake with the DDT. Those type of stars who can end it anyway. You can't take your eye off the TV, right? I think they got that with Hook, and I was skeptical though because he's been that guy with Team Taz for the last year,
Yeah.
and he just looked like this is Taz's son. He's just here because of his dad. The last two matches, dude. I didn't see his last one Rampage last night, but the first two with I can't think of their names, but man, awesome matches.
Yeah, like I was telling, I made the joke. I was like, man, the angle they did with Ricky Starks and Brian Cage initially in Team Taz is legit. What's going to happen with Ricky Starks and Brooke?
Yes, I love Ricky Starks too on the mic. Sometimes sometimes want someone who can talk. I don't really care about work rate. There's always going to be that guy who's a great talker and not a great worker. But man, Ricky Starks is that guy for me.
So speaking of AEW great talkers, man, the promo Dan Lambert did with Cody and his wife this last week.
Yes.
I know he's supposed to be a heel, man, but man, I was loving it. That was great stuff, man.
I love it too, dude. I love it too. I think he's I love Lambert's group. I think they could have elevated that too. You have legit stars he has in his camp. And if you're just a fight fan, his camp produced some great MMA fighters, boxers. Why not utilize that a little bit more?
If he wanted to, man, Junior Dos Santos could be such a huge wrestling star, man. I just the little things that he did in AEW, I'm like, you're kidding me. This guy just kind of went out and figured this out for one match. Like he's looked like he's been wrestling for years, man.
Exactly. Do you see Cody turning heel?
I'll give it to Cody. I respect a lot of things about him. I respect the fact that he's not trying to book himself in the main events.
Mm-hmm.
I think he does give himself a little more TV time than he should. But I do like the fact that he kind of plays with the internet a little bit and whether or not he wants to toe that line between heel and face, and kind of keep the crowd interested in him and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't hate him on that end. I think I wish he didn't go over on Sammy in the last TNT title match.
Yes.
I think Sammy would have been a little bit more better with the longer run on that title. Mm-hmm. I don't think it does much for either the title or Cody at this point to have that title. Mm-hmm. I wish I wish Cody kind of, if he does go heel, go full heel. Let himself get, go book yourself back in main events. Go after the championship, that kind of thing. Make us hate you. Make us, make us want CM Punk to take you down a peg. Those guys, build that stuff.
The table is set. I think people, especially with these guys who love to go to Hollywood and take that little break. Fans, those pure fans, they hate The Rock, they hate Goldberg, they hate Rock. Those guys who just take the business as this is just a gateway to something else. Like you're here for a pit stop. You're not here because you love us. And I think that's what Cody should build on. Like, hey, I'm just using this to springboard in my career. I give you guys 10 years. You guys never believed in me. And now I use this and I'm going Hollywood, That would be awesome. Awesome stuff, I think. Another awesome thing we have here is CM Punk and MJF. This is probably one of the best feuds in the game right now, too.
Probably in the last 5 years, man. I don't think those guys have been. I think they were in a 6 tag together, but I don't think they've actually had a match. They've actually where they laid a hand on each other yet.
Perfect.
And it feels like this feud is just like, what's going to be said next, man? When you growing up, you always kind of put, imagine if this guy went against this guy on the stick, and now you're actually seeing that between two guys, and they're going to the places that you didn't think they'd go. I think MJF has been brilliant on the mic. I think CM Punk's always seems to gets the better of him.
Yes.
Just kind of using that. But I think this past week when MJF went into the whole main event, WrestleMania and that kind of thing, I was like, ooh, that dug a little bit.
Yeah, dude, the below the belt shots have been awesome. The rip off Miz line was amazing. Even him telling Punk that you couldn't make it UFC, so you came back for the money. Dude, that stuff is real. That's what we're towing the line now. Is this shit really real, or are they working us? And it seems like this is just two great artists going back and forth what they do best, man. It's amazing. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Two guys that can put in their time and don't just kind of show up and figure it out. Even though it's not scripted like their competitors, I think that they're doing a good job of kind of figuring out what it is they want to say, what are the points that they want to make, and definitely the things that they want to make sure the fans go home with.
I think that with AEW too, when it's done right, they are showing that you don't need the scripted promos. Just give us just like today, we had bulletin points what we're gonna go over. Just hit it, just mean it, and just show us that you give a damn about it. That's all I want as a fan. I just want to buy it. Okay, sure. It's selling me now. And MJF dude sells me. CM Punk sells me. Another beauty of the format with AEW is their pay-per-view schedules. So we know it's not going to conclude in a couple weeks. We have time until that next week pay-per-view to see Punk and MJF, and to see him with Wardlow next week, or this week CM Punk and Wardlow. It's going to be cool to see him step on that. Now he's going to have to probably go to the pinnacle and just go on that ladder and have some great matches with these guys. I think with one thing we kind of just glossed over too. Actually, it's right here. The talent what we're talking about with AEW. Do they have the TV time to showcase everything we've been talking about?
It's rough, man. I think there's just it's really good right now because of who they have in there. There's just the level of guys I think that are for the business, that are willing to be unselfish, that are willing to kind of sit in the back and kind of let other guys kind of take their storylines and that kind of thing. I don't see like I see like company guys in that, the Dark Order guys. I can see them doing that. I see Eddie Kingston kind of being one of those guys.
Another one. Oh, God, amazing.
Best Friends and FTR and all those guys. I think those guys will wait for their spots, but it's just you're building. Like I said, you have your 4 pillar guys. You have your
WWE editions.
You have your WWE editions. You have your next gen guys. One of the other guys I forgot to throw in the next group of pillars, I guess, the Brian, Pilman Juniors and those guys. Dante Martin.
Yeah, great athlete. Great athlete.
I think he's going to be one of those guys that when he comes up, he's going to be, a guy that they're going to talk about for a long time.
Definitely.
Provided he stays healthy, considering some of the moves he pulls, man.
Yeah, dude. Crazy.
Yeah, like I said, those guys kind of.
Jungle Boy. We can't forget about, man. We gloss over Jungle Boy sometimes too. So many great athletes. Such a star, dude. I think he's once they can take their time too. He's right there with Pillman and Hook. He could be something special for sure.
Man, I think one of the most legitimate pops I had is when Jungle Boy won that battle royal and just was standing on top of the arena with his music playing in the background. I was just like, I don't know what it is about live wrestling, man, but it gets me sometimes.
Yeah, man, it's a bit of beauty. That's what I love about. It's kind of my only complaint about Rampage. I wish it was live.
Yeah,
I wish it was live, dude. I still watch it, but this isn't. It's not going on right now. But I really hope. I know they have AEW Dark and Elevation. I just they got like 450,000 views, which is a great number, right? But talk about mainstream national. We're on TBS now. How do we get all these guys on these shows? And thank God they're not 3-hour shows, right? Like hardly get through Raw sometimes. But how do we get all these guys and just give them the proper time they need? Which kind of keeps it from being stagnant, though. At least every week we can have something different, right?
Right, and I think that's a big issue that WWE has is that they always kind of give us the same, I think I love I love what they do in the ring with each other, but how many times are we going to see Roman and Brock?
Yeah, dude, exactly. I think, man, who the hell was Otis tag team with for a while there? What was
Oh,
well, just say
Tucker.
Heavy Machinery, right? How many
Yeah,
times can we see Heavy Machinery go against damn, who were they going against? I think Hurt Business for so long. I think
yeah.
they have a tendency just to recycle these over and over again. We've seen with the tag team, with Jungle Boy. Speaking of Jungle Boy, just winning the tag team titles with Luchasaurus from the Pentagon and Phoenix, with the Lucha Brothers. Sorry,
Right.
it was a feel good moment too. I thought that those are guys who've been chipping since the beginning. The first show they've been on there, just working. The crowd loves them. So to see them get some recognition and some hardware now is really cool.
Especially in a match that was essentially face versus face. It was for him to kind of it's rare to get a match where you're still happy for both teams. You're still kind of in those situations where where you're face versus face. Obviously, I think the finish was a little jumbled because of the injury, but
Mm-hmm.
I still see the payout that everybody kind of bought into those guys and love the fact that they got to see what them finally go over.
Yes, definitely. And to see all the tag teams line up on top of the stage on the stage is great storytelling. That's what we need. That everybody that makes the tag team champions matter.
And you know what? It's good because the major tag teams have won the title now. The FTRs, the the elite. Those guys.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
They've had their runs. They've had their reigns. Now it seems like okay. Now we're starting to see the up and coming tag teams starting to kind of get their spot and
Yeah.
now that they can see
It'll be cool to
maybe
see those guys chase now. Let's see how they gotta chase the new guys now.
yeah.
I think what they're doing with the tag team division is really great, and they're making their titles count. And I think it's really important to maintain that because again, we see what happens when you have two tag team champs on two brands, and it means nothing.
Yeah,
Prop,
definitely.
and hopefully they don't have that same issue with AEW. So I'm really excited, and I think this is kind of what we want to do, man. Doing the job, wrestling talk, and I hope everybody enjoys it. I know I talk about wrestling all the time on the S.T.S podcast, bro. So to have somebody actually talk back with me is, I think we're on to something, Cueto. I think this we always say this is the pilot episode, but this is it went really well. I don't think we didn't stop. I mean, I think we got to keep the flow going. I think it's all about flow with podcasts. So, man, I think this is a great place, and I think wrestling's in a great place for sure.
Definitely.
Anytime you anytime we're gonna do this as much as we can. No, we're both busy, especially on the weekends. We're coaching, we're doing all this crazy stuff, and I know wrestling is kind of our leisure time away from the real world, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
I would love to have you on again, man. And whenever you want to just come on, we don't even got to talk wrestling, dude. We always have a little segment at the end of this and just talk sports, and we'll keep this going, dude.
No doubt, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Ernie C, the Gap Tooth Genius, Arnold Cueto. This is going to be doing the job, and we out.